Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all about what in typical business or marketing terms is referred to as the customer journey framework. But we'll call it a patient journey, but sometimes we like to call our peeps patients, customers, clients, whatever works for you. I think you'll get the gist of what I'm talking about as well. So the customer journey is a framework that outlines the stages that a patient or a potential patient goes through on the way through to them interacting or finding out from our brand, the initial discovery, all the way through to becoming a loyal advocate. Now, here's what's really important that you understand this. When most of us are thinking about marketing, we only think about the very first phase. Now, I'm going to go through all 5 phases in a moment, but that first phase is awareness, okay? We want somebody knowing all about us. But if we're not optimizing all 5 phases of the customer or patient journey, then you're really missing out on all of the factors that could ultimately go towards you increasing your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice. All right, let's dive into it first of all. I'm going to overview the 5 phases of the patient journey, and then I'm going to dive into each of those and talk about how do we optimize each of those. So I'll give you sort of things that you can do. We're going to get super tactical in this one. So this episode will be one that might be useful to listen back to with pen and paper and with your team, because I'm going to give you lots to do. The first of the 5 phases is called the awareness phase. And this is the first stage that a patient becomes aware of you. At this stage, they don't know much about you. Maybe they don't know much about chiropractic also, but they've encountered your brand through some form. Now, maybe it's through social media, maybe it's through a Google review, or maybe they're talking to a friend, okay? So again, this is not just some terms of external marketing. Word of mouth marketing might also lead to the awareness phase. Now, the goal in this stage is to create awareness, generate interest, and attract that potential patient to learn more. Okay, that's what we want to happen at this stage. Now, the growth of social media has meant that the awareness phase is easier than ever for us. We can actually reach out and get our face in front of more people than ever. However, we don't want to look at social media just on its own, because it can do some things really well, but there are other tools that we want to use that we'll talk about. After the awareness phase is the consideration phase, okay? So once a potential patient is aware of your brand, of your practice, they move into the consideration phase. And this is where they're actively researching and they're evaluating different options. They might be saying, hey, listen, is chiropractic what we need? Are there other health choices? Or maybe what they're actually doing is comparing your practice to another practice, okay? So at this stage, it's important that we really clearly communicate things like our unique selling points. I'll go into more details on this in a moment, okay, too. The conversion phase, okay? So in the conversion phase, potential patients make a decision to take action. Now, this doesn't mean that it's making an appointment, although that's one indication of conversion, because it could be them coming along to a workshop. It might even be them just signing up for a newsletter, but they're actually taking a step. They're getting in the game, so to speak. Now, this stage is critical because it's what leads to ultimately generating revenue. It's the thing that leads to income. So many chiropractors are telling me that they have a large social media following, but it doesn't lead to any more new patients in their practice. And that is because they're having difficulty moving people into the consideration and then in the conversion phase. We'll talk about things that will help with that in a moment. Now, after the conversion phase, next we get into the retention phase. So after patients have made an appointment, they've engaged with your brand, your practice, then maintaining an ongoing relationship and encouraging repeat business. This is all the retention phase, okay? This is about providing excellent service. It's about meeting people's expectations, all those type of things. And again, we'll dive into that a little. Now, the 5th and final phase through here is called the advocacy phase, okay? And now this stage or this phase is when patients are highly satisfied with your brand. They become advocates. Now, this means they're promoting your products, your services. Now, they might be doing this through many different ways. It could be word of mouth. It could be online reviews. Now, advocates are an incredibly powerful marketing asset because they help to build trust and they help to bring new people into your practice. Now, not everybody's going to reach the advocacy phase, and this doesn't mean that they're not a great patient. You'll know that there are many patients that you have that are great referrers, but there are other patients who are great patients who are not great referrers. But the more people we can move towards this advocacy phase or stage, then we're building great marketing assets. Now, just a step before we get into how to optimize each of these, again, let me remind you, why is it important for we understand these phases? Now, you might have begun to realize that perhaps you're one of those chiropractors who has a reasonable social media following, but you're realizing now, hang on, I'm really lousy at the conversion. Or maybe what you're lacking is the retention phase. Now, we tend to think about retention as only being the things that we do inside our practice, but there are many steps that we can take from retention, ways that we can use social media, other assets to kind of help with retention. We'll touch on that too. So understanding these 5 phases of the patient journey will help you with better targeting and segmentation. So this means that you'll be able to identify better the needs and the concerns and the expectations because they're different. We want to talk to somebody that's in the awareness phase very different than somebody that's in the retention or the advocacy phase. It'll be a much better patient experience. So it's nicer for them to go through that journey. Once I've already bought into you and your practice, again, I need different information provided to me. So that will help my experience. It will absolutely lead to better patient retention. It will lead to more advocacy, and it will also really improve your marketing strategies. It'll give you better results. So we need to understand this. Again, let me go over it. There's an over-obsession with marketing for that awareness phase. It's what people mostly think about, but marketing is actually taking people through all 5 of these phases there too. Okay. In summary, understanding the phases of the customer journey provides you with lots of insights that will help to improve your marketing efforts, the patient experience, and your overall success. Okay, you need to make sure that you are tailoring strategies for each phase or stage so that you can attract, engage, and retain patients more effectively, ultimately leading to more sustainable and profitable practice. Now, let's dive in a little bit into each of these 5 phases now, and let's talk about things that we can do to maximize and get the best possible results in each of these. Okay, so let's start with the awareness phase. Okay, so to maximize results in the awareness phase, this stage, we want to implement things like content marketing. Okay, so we want to be creating informative, engaging, shareable content. This could be blog posts, articles, videos. And again, I have provided so much content previously here on the podcast that you could work your way through. Now, this content is about you showing up in people's social media feeds. So as they're scrolling and thumbing their way through, that you pop up, okay, they start to see you, they become aware of you. This is that idea of the more people that know you, like you, and trust you, the busier and more effortless your practice will be. So this is people getting to know you, okay? Now, one of the really important tools that will help you in the awareness phase is search engine optimization. So if somebody's typing into Google chiropractor near me, Port Melbourne chiropractor, your suburban chiropractor, then making sure that you have good search engine optimization means that you are going to show up very early in there, okay? So this is making sure that your site loads quickly, the back end of things are all working the way it's a nice usable experience on there. You know, if Google sees people coming over to your site and then they're bouncing really quickly, then this is a lack of a trust signal, okay? Now, when it comes to search engine optimization, I think it's useful in engaging an expert, somebody to help you in the background, at least to make sure that your site is set up right. Now, once it's set up right to begin with, then you can maintain the search engine optimization by just regularly updating content, making sure things like Google Business Profile are updated. But the first phase of this, I think it's worth kind of engaging with an expert, okay? So social media marketing, again, is another way that we're improving the awareness. So maintaining active social media profiles on the platforms that are popular amongst your target audience, okay? Online advertising as well. So this could be Google ads, this could be Facebook ads. And again, if we can use things like geo-targeting to make sure that we're reaching people in our area. Okay, so this is where we're actually paying to put our content in front of people. Now, again, this doesn't mean that we're necessarily paying for discounts. We don't have to be putting those discount ads out there. In a previous episode, probably last week's, I think that's the order that this will come out, I talked about some of the downsides of discounts and certainly the downsides of free. But what we're doing at this stage is we're actually putting money behind boosting our content so it's getting in front of people so they're becoming aware of us as well, okay? And of course, we tend to forget and ignore things like, public relations and community outreach, participating in local events and workshops and health fairs. These are great ways to increase the visibility of your practice. It could be sponsoring a local football side. Again, I think, and I just did a training recently for my community influencer members on why now is a great time to be diving back into community-based marketing. It's always been great, but there's been an obsession with people to go online, and we need to get right back to feet on the ground and connecting with people in our community. We can also improve the awareness of our practice by having referral marketing, by encouraging our existing patients to tell their friends, to refer people in. So we're using our existing patient base to make those that aren't aware of us actually aware of us. And again, things even like consistent branding. When our practice has a consistent brand theme that runs across all our marketing materials, our presence online, it just makes you more memorable, okay? It means if you're showing up consistent in the feed there too, that repetition there is one of those things that's going to lead to awareness. There is a phenomenon called the mere exposure effect, so MERE, which just says that the more we see someone, the more we see something, the more likable it tends to be, okay? We want to take advantage of just repetition of our content showing up. So a strong, cohesive brand can help to create a memorable and professional impression, okay? Whether it be online, whether it's the branding of your practice, any marketing material. So they're all steps that you can take to improve the awareness of your practice. Now let's get into the next phase, okay? So the next phase we want to maximize is the consideration phase. So how do we start to move people? They know us. How do we start to move them towards wanting to consider actually making an appointment and coming in and seeing us, okay? And again, there is repetition in what I talked about before, but with a slightly different tinge that'll come across it. So we want to make sure that we are creating informative and persuasive content. We want to be creating in-depth content that addresses the common questions. This is important. What are the common questions that somebody might be having before coming in to see you, okay? We want to address things like the way that we care for our patients. If you are a pediatric practice, then again, we want to be letting people know about how gentle our care is. If they have the idea that we're going to be cracking and crunching the spines of the little babies, then again, we want to make sure that we address that. Testimonials and case studies can be really powerful here in helping to move somebody through that consideration phase. So online reviews, retention, let me say that again, online reviews and reputation management. So we want to be encouraging our existing patients to be leaving reviews on things like Yelp or Facebook or Google Business Profile, I think is the very best one. We want to be making sure that we're doing things like highlighting our unique selling points. So what do I mean by unique selling points? What is it that makes you different from the other chiropractors in your town? And it could be the sort of people that you look after. You know, we look after pregnant patients, families. It could be the techniques that you use. It could be, for instance, the hours that you're open. It could be the fees that you use. So what is it that is unique and different about your practice? Spend some time clarifying that and then making sure that you're putting that in the marketing materials that you're putting out there too, okay? Having a whole bunch of educational resources, free resources, might be an ebook or a webinar or videos that provide valuable information that can take somebody on that customer journey. This will be really helpful. You might even want to consider offering virtual consultations or introductory offers. This is something that I use really successfully in my practice, and this is how it would often play out. A patient, I'm sure you've had these circumstances too, would say, hey, listen, Angus, can you help migraines? And I'm like, yeah, we see often people with migraines as well. Tell me why. Well, I've got a friend of mine at work who's got these migraine headaches, and I'm wondering if you might be able to help them. Now, the way I would go through that is I would often respond, hey, listen, we do and often see really great results with migraine headaches, but what might be best is I'd be happy to have a chat with your friend on the phone, find out a little bit more about what's going on with them and work out whether chiropractic might be right for them or whether it might be something else. Do you think they might be interested? And very often the patient would say yes. And then I would say, can you let them know that I'd be happy to do that? And if they're interested, can you pass their phone number back on to me? Now, I never wanted to cold call them because that would be a bit icky and yuck and sleazy. But once I got the okay from the person, then what I wanted to do is offer a virtual consultation. I'd get on the phone with this person. I'd ask some questions about their migraines, how long they've been happening for, what have they tried, what they hadn't tried. And if I thought chiropractic was worth trying for them, I'd let them know and I'd invite them into the practice. And my success rate of taking those patients there and converting them into an appointment was over 95%. So this was, again, me taking control of the situation there too, because often what people will do is they go, yeah, we help migraines all the time. They'll let your patient know if they want to make an appointment, they can come on in. And again, we just need to take more control of that too. So other little things that will help in the conversion phase are showcasing professional affiliations, certifications. So again, do you have special credentials? Are you a part of certain groups, memberships? these sort of things there that might add some authority to you. So they're all steps along the way that's going to help somebody in the conversion process. Remember, in the conversion process, the consideration process. In the consideration process, what somebody's doing is they're gathering information. They're starting to compare you to others. They were looking at, are you right for me? There's a whole bunch of fears that might need to be addressed, and this is what we want to make sure that we do, okay? So these strategies, the one I've just spoke about now, can effectively address patient concerns and questions in the consideration phase, and this is what will hopefully persuade them to take the next step, which is moving towards the conversion phase, okay? So let's talk about the conversion phase. So structural things that will help, particularly on your website and other areas, is having really clear call to actions. So this is regularly throughout your homepage on your website, telling them what to do next. Click here to make an appointment. Click here to call. And this should be repeated regularly throughout the homepage and regularly throughout your entire website. A user-friendly website design, user-friendly navigation. This is another thing that will help conversion. There have been many times, I'm sure, that you have wanted to go and find out more about a business than contact the business. You can't find their phone number. You don't know how to book an appointment, or it's really confusing. We want to make sure that the user experience is really easy. And this has been a real shift nowadays with people expecting things like online booking options. A lot of people now don't want to call. Like, can I just book online? I'm seeing, and we're talking with a lot of my friends, that there's been an incredible uptake in people wanting to book online. And again, I think we're going to see with the increase of different AI tools, certainly these large language models like ChatGPT, that we'll start to see live chat and chatbots that are being able to answer people's questions through your website, give them really good information, and then direct them towards that conversion phase. Follow-up and remarketing is another thing that you can do, okay? So just following up regularly with people. Someone comes and has some question, maybe I do a virtual consultation with somebody, can I reach back out to them? We can have automated ways of doing this via email. And again, we can remarket people. So all those people that come over to your website and have a little bit of a look around but don't make an appointment, then what we can do is we can remarket to them and making sure that we're showing your content to them when they're back on social media. We've all experienced that beforehand. We go and look at a pair of shoes, and then we find that when we're on social media or Instagram, Facebook, or surfing the net there, that pair of shoes continues to show up to us. This is referred to as remarketing. And again, having a team behind you to help with things like that can be really effective. Special promotions and incentives can be useful. So is there a way that you can create a level of urgency or scarcity? Again, you can do this by decreasing the price, but you can also do this by adding things on. Hey, listen, book in April, and we'll throw in a posture poll and maybe a pillow fitting as well. Again, making sure on your website that you have lots of trust signals and social proof. We talked about this before. And then the final point here when we're thinking about this conversion phase is making sure that you're providing really seamless customer experience. If somebody's going to get on the phone with you, do your front desk train on talking to people, on answering their questions and helping them move from that consideration phase into the conversion phase. So this should be something that you should be regularly role-playing on. What are the questions that are likely to come up? What are the barriers that are likely going to get in the way of them actually making an appointment, okay? So these strategies, the ones that we've just talked about now, are going to encourage your potential patients to take action and convert, okay? Again, remember the conversion might be to something as simple as signing up for a newsletter, coming to a workshop, and ultimately what we want them converting into is making sure that they are making an appointment. All right, let's get on to the fourth phase of the customer journey, and this is the retention stage or the retention phase, okay? What sort of things should you be doing through your marketing, both in-house and out of house, that you can improve on the retention phase? The first is just an exceptional patient experience. Nothing outdoes that as well. Ensure that every interaction, from the appointment scheduling to the actual care that you develop and share with them, is professional, is efficient, and it's focused on their needs. There's a lot of things and a lot of times in our practice that we spend thinking about us, what's best for us as the chiropractors. And yes, we have to consider that too, because we're the ones there. We need to make sure that we're not going outside what our boundaries are, because whenever we go outside of our boundaries, we end up with resentment. But ultimately, we're in the game of serving our patients. So we need to be thinking about how can we provide an exceptional service for them. Regular communication, staying in touch with your patients through email, through social media, through different events, keeping them updated. Patient satisfaction surveys. So you can be implementing surveys and finding out, there's a concept called a net promoter score, which, I'm sure you've participated in one of these. Different brands will send out an email or a message to you saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to your friends? Now, when we look at this, the scores on the 0 to 6, they're a negative net promoter. The score on the 9s and 10s are positives, and the 7s and 8s we throw out, and then you compare the 0 to 6 to the 9 to 10, and we come up with a net promoter score. If you're not doing something like this, then you should consider doing something like this at least once a year, and certainly after the initial care phase. So this can give you valuable information from your patients, which can help you improve your customer or patient experience, which will help with retention as well. So loyalty programs, incentives, making sure that you get to know your patients. Like, do you understand what's important to them, their life outside? I really made an effort to try and listen for those things. When a patient was coming in for an adjustment, I was checking in with them, what have you got coming up for the weekend ahead? And even if it was something inconsequential, like I'm spending some time in the garden, I've got some new trees to plant, I always found and made a note of those things. I had a great memory for them, but I made a note of them. Even when they were back in the practice next, if I could just check in with them and say, hey, Sue, how did you go with planting those trees on the weekend? Now, when I made note of those things, it makes people feel very cared, and it didn't matter how much time I spent with them. And patients would often say that to me afterwards. I know that we don't have a long time here with the adjustments, but I always felt like you're incredibly present with me. What was moments felt like a lot longer than that, and they really, really appreciated that. And that was one of the things that helped with our retention a lot. Of course, ongoing education and support is important for your retention, letting them know why, what's valuable for them, why they should be coming back. And then again, final point here is to make sure that you actually have a really good reactivation campaign. Regardless of how well you're doing all of those things, people get busy and they get distracted and they will drop out of care. And it doesn't always mean that they don't like you. It doesn't always mean they're not satisfied with the results. They just got busy and distracted. And so you need to make sure that you have good processes in place so that you can reactivate these people and so you can keep retention to a maximum as well. So implementing these key strategies will help you maintain really strong relationships with your existing patients. It'll encourage repeat visits. It'll foster patient loyalty, and it'll keep somebody really moving through that customer journey as well. This will contribute to a much more successful and sustainable and enjoyable practice. Okay, so making sure that we're working on retention is incredibly important. The final phase of the customer journey is this advocacy phase. So what do we do to maximize and move as many people as we can towards the advocacy phase there too? Now, we do this by just encouraging reviews and testimonials. Are you actually inviting them to be an advocate? Again, simple things that when somebody shares a success story with you, you're checking in with their adjustment, you're saying, hey, Bob, how are things doing? Bob says, I'm doing great. I just had my first weekend without any discomfort, or maybe I had the first weekend and my little Johnny slept through the night. When we get these wonderful feedback, we want to first of all celebrate. And second, what I do is I want to say, listen, can I ask a favor? Yes. One of my biggest frustrations is the number of parents out there that don't understand that chiropractic is great for the kids. There's a whole bunch of parents out there who aren't sleeping during the night, who are feeling overwhelmed, exhausted because their little one just needs an adjustment. Would you write a little testimonial sharing your experience? It's one of the ways that people in our community hear about chiropractic. And when I make it mission-based, when I ask for a favor like that, patients love to share Google reviews there too. So again, you could develop a referral program. So creating a referral program that rewards existing patients from referring their friends and family into your practice. This could be something as simple as a gift, flowers to them, a card. There are many different ways that you could do this. We used to gift our patients with a free an adjustment when they sent people in. So these were ways that we rewarded them and encouraged that type of behaviour. Just sharing patient success stories, letting them know of the wonderful things that go inside your practice or inside your practice across the range. So I used to like to share, if somebody came in to see me because of lower back pain, I would like to share success stories of all the other reasons that people would come in to me. And this would have very much often encouraged them. Wow, I didn't know that you could help so many things. I didn't know that you saw kids in here. I didn't know that you could help athletes. I didn't know that it was, good for my whole body here too. When they understand the breadth and width of chiropractic, then that can really encourage advocacy. Fostering a sense of community. This may well be one of the most important things that you can do in your practice, because it's the missing element that so many of us have in our life nowadays with these online lives. is that there's a lack of community. So cultivating a sense of community amongst your patient, hosting events, workshops, again, just simple things, inviting the great patients out to dinner, community-based events are incredibly important. And again, through all of this, then just an excellent patient experience. So focusing on making sure that your patients are happy, they're getting great results from their initial step from when they very first call the office or very first see you online, all the way through to them continuing on with the care. So these sort of strategies will encourage your satisfied patients to become active advocates in your practice. And these are amazing assets, okay? So that's the 5 phases of the customer journey or of the patient journey. Let's just review those again. The awareness phase. The goal of the awareness phase is for you to create brand awareness, okay, for people to become interested in you and to attract potential patients to learn more, okay? There's a lot of focus here. But next we go into this consideration phase. And again, the consideration phase is when somebody's comparing you with other options. Consideration phase here is where somebody has a lot of fears or barriers before coming into you, and we want to be making sure that we're addressing each of those. And this is where it's important that we understand our potential patients, because the fears and frustrations, the barriers are different for almost everybody. They're different if I'm wanting to bring young Sonny who's 18 months into you versus I'm wanting to bring my dad into you who's 75 or 76, okay? So then we go into, so from the consideration phase, which is next, we go into the conversion phase. How do we make it easy for them? Is it online booking? Is it really clear calls to action? Is it just a seamless experience that makes it easy for them to make an appointment? Of course, customer reviews, testimonials, if you're allowed to use these, are incredibly useful. Then we go into, I think I just did the conversion phase, that was there too. Then we got the retention phase. How do we keep people? Well, we keep people by providing really wonderful service, by addressing their needs, by making them feel seen and heard, and remembering that with all of those things, people do sometimes drop out of care also because they get busy. And then finally, we have the advocacy phase here as well. And this is about turning satisfied patients into raving fans, okay? People who are going to be out there and be megaphones in your community who want to share the story, okay? First of all, knowing that there are 5 phases and looking for ways that you can address the individual needs of people along those is really going to help build a much more sustainable practice, a practice that's going to be more enjoyable for you, more impactful and more profitable as well. All right, folks, that's the 5 phases of the patient journey. Understanding those will help you enormously. Thank you for all that you do. Your beautiful, beautiful community needs you understanding this, so you are crafting content that is personalized for them. Thanks for all you do. Keep saving lives. See you back here next week. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.